purging is at last at hand. The day of doom is here. All that is evil, all that are lies, your parents, your ears, those who would call themselves your judges, those who have lied and corrupted the earth, they shall all be cleansed.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. We're back for another episode of Eurabiamania. We haven't been putting them out quite as frequently lately. We're hoping to get back on schedule, and we have a special guest today. Honest Sorcerer is here with us. Hello, Honest, and of course, the inimitable Ahnaf Ibn Qais is joining us. So, we have a triad of big brain people here, all set to talk about what's going on in the world. And oh boy, have we got a show for you.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Nice to be here.
Good day to Sir Kenaz, good day to Sir Sorcerer, evening for myself and Sir Sorcerer, I believe, and morning for Sir Kenaz. Yeah, I mean, these types of shows, we've not put them out as frequently as Sir Kenaz was saying. This is like a month later, so I've missed Sir Kenaz, I've missed this, but yeah, no, Sir Kenaz, a lot of funny things happening. But before we get into like the micro events that are happening, let me actually go to Sir Honest Sorcerer, and this is January 29th, 2024. It is his most popular article, so if you haven't read it, dear listeners and readers, please read it. Collapse will look nothing like the movies, and it's a very exceptional piece, but I'll just read the last two paragraphs or so, I think. Once net energy peaks and starts to decline, it will mean a permanent economic contraction. Complex systems like corporations, governments, or the world economy only know, quote-unquote, how to grow. They are not designed to function under conditions of degrowth. And while the rank and file working in governments and corporations will do everything they can to keep the system together, they will be fighting a losing battle. This is why large, complex societies like ours become fragile. Instead of voluntarily giving up functions and simplifying to conserve energy, they do the opposite. They concentrate power even more, allowing their rent-seeking oligarchs to siphon off any remaining wealth, while the rest fights tooth and nail to survive under increasing austerity, at least until physics ultimately wins and things eventually fall apart. At this point, people, and that includes us, me and you, dear reader, will increasingly have to rely on local communities, personal skills, small farms, and radically simplified governance structures. No one will come on TV to announce that collapse is officially here and that you are free to go. These things will occur in parallel, and when our centralized systems finally give up the ghost, they will leave a vacuum behind. What will fill this void with, however, will be up to us. At least I hope so. Until next time. So yeah, no, Sir Sorcerer, very, very well-written piece. I just read the last two paragraphs. Anything else you would like to add to that particular piece you penned, I think, over a year or so ago?
A lot of things to add. So actually, this is my blog about that to discover all the aspects of this collapse. And as I dig deeper, especially into the politics of collapse, I continue to find new aspects of it.
Oh yeah. Like one of the things I think you wrote in that piece and also in a few other pieces is that you can't expect people to change their behavior. Like governments are going to do what governments do, which is like, to solve problems and to like quote unquote resolve things, they're going to add on more complexity, right? And they're going to add on more upkeep and maintenance, right? You can't expect them like this whole concept of like people having that, well, we can, if we have the right people in government, they will eventually adopt this. Well, no, they won't, because the last 6,000 plus years of civilization has been, okay, we have a problem, add more complexity onto the thing and resolve the thing, right? So that's kind of what unfortunately a lot of people still haven't figured out yet.
Yes, exactly. And this is why our leaders are in denial. So actually, they deny the fact that we are collapsing. And due to that denial, they are just piling up on the issues. They're just adding more complexity, and not only that, they are just adding more corruption to the system, and more theft, and also more functions, more roles, more bureaucracy, more of everything, basically, just to keep the thing together. Even though they, in the bottom of their heart, they feel that this is not going to work out fine, and this might go a little bit awry in a few years' time, but they still hope that this is not going to happen under my term or under my watch. So
Oh yeah.
so
Oh
they
yeah.
just keep adding to the racket until everything basically collapses. And this is basically the fundamental concept of my thesis, is that we are in denial until the very last moment, and especially our leaders, especially those who are leading big organizations or even states like the United States, is completely in denial of what is really going on, and they are just fighting tooth and nail to keep the things together, and then just fingers crossed that things will not collapse under the watch.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Sir Kenaz, I think you wrote a piece a while back about why nobody's coming to save you, but you also touch on a lot of similar themes with regard to what's going on right now.
Yeah, well, I think people get when a country has been around for 200, for 200 years, you figure it'll probably make it to 250 and 300. When we had a period of just unparalleled prosperity between 1946 and about 1973. So, basically just about everybody alive today has only seen America in prosperity. They don't have a frame of reference to look at. My grandparents, my mother, they remembered the Depression. We
Mhm.
didn't, that's not really in living memory anymore. I mean, there are 90-year-olds who remember it, maybe, centenarians, but there really aren't, we've never seen an America that wasn't on the top of the world. We've never seen, if you were born after 1946, which means everybody from the boomers on up, you've never seen a world where America wasn't either, one of the two superpowers or the sole superpower. So it's like
Mhm.
the idea that, oh, wait, we're going to go back to being a regional power, or, also very possible we're going to become like a dozen different countries. That's just, there's nothing in their frame of reference to measure that by. And so what you get, I mean, you start seeing what I like to call cargo cult behavior. Okay, well, during the Depression, we got out of the Great Depression because we went into World War II and we kicked up the war machine. So if we
Yeah.
kick up the war machine and we start all the factories going to producing munitions, we're going to come out of like, this financial crisis. And it's just like, okay, yeah, that's the first part of your statement is true, but we don't have the factories right now. And you don't call the factory company and say, hello, I would like a munitions factory. Can you have it delivered to my site by Tuesday? I mean, it takes years to build a factory.
Yeah, and
And it,
not only that, it takes more orders to feed that factory with orders. So you don't build a factory just for one big batch of orders. You have to have a constant speed of stuff going in and going out. So that means constant war. So it's an unsustainable proposition to say. But it also reminds me of the situation we experienced here in Central Europe when the communism fell. All my parents knew that communism was good, things were growing, things getting better. But in the meantime, our country and our region just got deeper into debt and then got more trouble heaped on ourselves. And then when communism finally fell, everybody was certainly shocked that, hey, this is how this could happen. So even the year before, nobody expected communism to fall, but then the year after, everything just simply fell apart. Month by month, news came in that this country fell, that country fell, this country exited the Warsaw Pact, and then that country exited. So it was really a cascade of events. Within 1 year, everything just happened, which was previously unimaginable. And even in many countries in Central Europe, we fought wars and we fought rebellions and waged a war against the Soviet Union, but it all failed and everything failed. And then suddenly, without any gunshots or without any big rebellion, something just happened and then things fall apart. So this can easily happen to the United States as well, or any other European country. So I know that history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme.
yes, I mean, I think that I've drawn like, my basic idea for how the American collapse goes. And again, I admit I'm using it from the only clear frame of reference that I've seen, secondhand from like the TV, 30 years ago, is I think it'll look very like the collapse of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union simply ran out of money. It no longer had any kind of real public support. It went out with a whimper, not a bang. And I think that's kind of what's going to happen here. If we get into a war with Iran, and I'd say, the odds are at least 60-40 that we are going to have some kind of shooting go down between Iran and the United States. I don't expect the United States to do very well. They might have a couple air sorties that go through and like, yeah, we blew this up, we dropped this on this. Then we're going to start seeing American ships get sunk.
Yeah, how did
And
it went the last time? Actually, this is the question that always bugs me. Especially, how did it went with Yemen, for example? Ships were just trying to evade rockets, and then plane fell off the board of the ships. So it's really not that easy as it used to be to bomb a country and then just claim victory afterwards.
There's an old saying that like every war starts with people who are preparing for the war before it. I mean, what we have is we have some of World War II's best technology. We've got big, huge aircraft carriers. You can fly planes off. We've got like, all our plans are based on, we're going to do like another Normandy storming, but they didn't have drones at Normandy. Today,
Exactly.
the rules of the game have changed. The rules of the games today favor like lightly armed mobile troops who can strike and run, instead of this huge line where you march together, which is the way we've been doing war since at least ancient Greece and Rome. What you tend to have now are smaller skirmishes and lots of them. And, when you're going to have a bunch of smaller skirmishes in an area that's twice the size of Texas, more than twice the size of Texas, and it has, what's the average elevation on it? Around 5,000 feet. I mean, Iran is very hilly.
It's above 5,000 feet, but there's a few nuances. The reason it's not much higher than that is because there is a desert in eastern Iran, which is pretty flat, and you've got a few of these other like valleys and whatever. But for the purposes of our conversation, right, we need to understand that America has to basically do an air campaign, right? They don't really have the forces. Like they just don't have the manpower. Like even if like civil war breaks out in America tomorrow, maximum 50,000 forces could probably be dispatched to the place, right? But anyhow, Sir Ken, as you asked the question, but for our purposes, the actual elevation is probably over 14,000 feet. And the number I'm using is the Zagros mountain range, right? The average elevation for that place is over 4,400 meters, which amounts to about 14,400 feet, right? The highest battlefield in the world, Kashmir, let me just quickly see what that is. So if we go to Kashmir average elevation, we can kind of get an idea of what we're talking about, right? Yeah, so average elevation of the Kashmir Valley is about 1,850 meters. So then you've got the Siachen Glacier. The reason I'm putting out these numbers is that we need to know what we're dealing with. Okay, Siachen Glacier average elevation is 17,770 feet. Okay, so gentlemen, why did I give you all those numbers? During the Sino-Indian War of 1960, I think 1962, I believe, the reason why the Chinese could not actually dispatch more than 100,000 troops or so, I think it was slightly less than that, and the Indians could only counter with like 20 or 30,000, has to do with elevation. The logistics line for high elevation, as you go up a few thousand feet, it doesn't scale linearly. Your logistics line actually scales exponentially. So by the time you get to like an elevation of 20,000 feet, you only have a few hundred men left. You actually can't do more than that. So to answer your question, Sir Kenaz, even if they invaded Iran, let's say you like waved the magic wand and like 2 million American troops just showed up, like 21, 29 years old, physically fit, able to do all the military stuff. Even if all those men showed up tomorrow, magically, right? The way it would work is in the Zagros Mountains, it would be groups of like 100, 200 maximum, and in like smaller and smaller contingents, and they would be skirmishing with the locals. And yeah, good luck winning that. But that's
Yeah.
basically what would happen.
Yeah, and besides that, it's not that easy to recruit those people anymore. And also, the populace is not willing to accept casualties or bodies
All of that's
arriving
true.
in
All
bags.
of that's true. Sorcerer, all of that's true. But we are using a magic wand. I literally said,
Yes.
I waved the magic wand. 2 million American soldiers show up and they're marching into Iran. Like, what would they have to do? Well, because of the elevation, it would be like smaller and smaller groups. And like, yeah, like they would basically start dying of actual like disease, hypothermia, and all that shit, basically. That's basically what
Okay.
would happen. It's the dumbest crap. Like when people tell me they're gonna invade Iran, I'm like, okay, I'm just fucking blocking you, man. You're not like, this is room temperature IQ level shit. Like
Oh, somebody
the
just said
highest.
Tehran by Christmas on.
Which is
I
deep
mean, I
inside the
think you're
country,
gonna,
actually.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think you're gonna be getting some coal in your stocking, my friend. No, that's like, it's not, you know, it's one of those things, I understand there are times when a war is necessary, but a war with Iran is not necessary. The other thing you're going to see here, and this is going to be a big problem, is for the first time, maybe since 1948, there's something like 53 of all Americans have an unfavorable to strongly unfavorable view of Israel. I could look up, it was a Pew poll. I mean, this was a serious poll, and half of the people don't like Israel. We have a very strong and growing pro-Palestine radicals mobilizing around a pro-Palestine platform that's brought them together. Everybody knows that if we go to war with Iran, we're doing it on behalf of Israel. That's
Yeah,
not
and
going to make a lot of people feel better about Israel.
Actually, if you wanted to have a civil war in the US, then just go ahead and invade Iran.
Wonderful. Shake Trump, shake Donald Trump, destroying America from within and doing Osama bin Laden's work. That's what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, this is really just, it's an extremely, I don't know if this, like, if an Iran conflict will be the end of the American state. It will be the end of the American empire. It's the end of American hegemony. I mean, I think American hegemony at this point is on life support, and they've all called the relatives to come and see it. But what we're going to be seeing when we come into Iran and we get our clocks clean and we leave with our tail between our legs, because that's really ultimately what's going to happen. I don't think we have the million plus soldiers we need to commit to. I mean, I know our army, I want to say, has 1.5 million, but out of that, maybe three, like, isn't the general rule something like you've got four supporters, four support teams, four supporting personnel for every soldier? So, we probably
Yeah,
got
yeah.
400,000 soldiers, and that's being generous, who are ready for an
The
invasion of Iran.
the ratio shifts based on topographic variables. So the reason why on the Siachen Glacier, which is disputed, not disputed rather, but which is like India and Pakistan have fought over it for many years. The reason why you can only do a few dozen men, not even a few hundred men, a few dozen men at a time fighting one another, has to do with the fact that the ratios get tweaked. It's not 4:1, Sir Kenaz. It's like 9:1 on this bottleneck, and then on the second bottleneck, 9:1, and then you do that 5 or 6 times. And by the time you go down the supply chain, how many fighters do you actually have? Only a few dozen men, right? And the Siachen Glacier is basically like, what was the number I gave you guys? 17,000 feet. The Zagros Mountains are 14,000 feet, right? It doesn't get any it doesn't get it doesn't get much nicer, to put it politely, right? So like the 2 million American troops would basically get slaughtered, because like you literally are gonna be deploying like a few dozen men at a time, basically, right? So and you're up against the locals who know the entire thing like the back of their hand, and booby traps and everything, and they can deploy more than you. So there you go.
And this is more going to be like a covert operation. Israel has already infiltrated the security forces of Iran.
Yeah.
This is what we have seen. So this is more like
That's
what's
basically
coming.
it.
Yeah,
That's basically it. Yeah.
maybe a special ops here and there, blowing up a bridge or a power plant and
That
things
kind
like
of
that.
shit.
So
Yeah, terrorism
yeah,
basically. Like Israel, like the reason why the surprise attack was so flashy for the cameras was because the terrorism and the covert ops worked. And what they did was they repeated America's failed strategy of decapitation, which the America has used for the past 2 or 3 decades. Like, okay, if we just decapitate quote unquote leadership, the savages will stop firing at us, right? Which doesn't happen, right? But anyhow, they did that, and now all of a sudden they're figuring out decapitation doesn't work, number one, and number two, they're firing back anyways, right? But no, there's going to be more of that. I mean, Iran is beginning to crack down on it, but I don't think they'll be able to get all of them. But there's going to be like a bit more of this stuff. So you'll have like infiltration and sabotage inside Iran, and then from Syrian and Iraqi airspace. So long range, from long range, they're going to have the jets fire off. But the thing with the jets is that the jets have maintenance time, right? So for every hour of flight time, there's several hours of maintenance time, right? Missiles don't have that. Like missiles, you can just fire the missile, right?
right.
So it's gonna be like I don't expect another surprise attack for the next several weeks or so, right? It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, it either
It's
works the first time or it doesn't work at all.
oh, I
So
mean,
yeah,
it
so
definitely worked. It definitely worked in the sense that the Iranians got pissed. So it definitely worked.
okay, but if the goal was to topple the Iranian government or behead the Iranian government, then it failed.
They should
And
have yeah. They should have talked to the Americans before they tried that. Hey, America bros, you know this decapitation thing we're about to try out? You've tried it out. Does it work? And the Americans, if they were being honest in that 4 hour long conversation, they would have said, no, bro, it doesn't fucking work.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, anyway, just go ahead and
if
try it.
this turns into a war of attrition, I mean, Israel has lost simply by the fact that, you're taking on a country that like has what is it about 10 more than 10 times your population and more than 30 times your land.
Yeah.
It's like a war of attrition you can't win. We can't win a war of attrition simply because we don't have enough ships to bring. We don't have the fleet that can bring over a Normandy invasion.
Nope.
That's going to be a real big problem. We can't do that. And yeah, we can do sorties, we can do the Vietnam thing. We'll drop napalm, we'll drop whatever, we'll drop conventional bombs. We'll make, this, we may even be able to level a city or two with conventional stuff. I don't think anybody wants to use nuclear this time, around. I think people are going to try real hard to avoid it. The Israelis might drop a nuke or two, but I'm thinking what happens after that is like, well, Pakistan has missiles and Pakistan has nukes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Pakistan would basically fire off because Pakistan and Iran have shared technology, military, and expertise for several decades. So, people are like, oh, well, if Iran gets hit by a nuke by the Israelis, Iran will basically cuck like a little bitch. And, I just like, I've noticed this way of talking for the last like several weeks or so. And I'm like, these people have no idea. Like, they view war as like a Marvel movie. Like, the guy didn't hit you back in 5 minutes, so he's finished. Or like, oh, why is Iran not firing back the way I want them to fire back? Or why are they not meeting my expectations? Bro, shut the fuck up, man. Like, war is not about meeting your expectations. It's about meeting objectives. It's about structural factors. It's about topography. It's about these things, right? But, people don't understand. And if Iran gets hit by a nuke, yeah, Pakistan fires back. And not just that, I mean, MAD will probably be triggered, right? So yeah, I think I'm on team nothing ever happens on this one, Sir Kenaz. I don't think the Israelis are going to even fire their nukes. Probably what's going to happen is they're going to try and goad the Americans into deploying what little they have left of their, destroyed military, like eroding away military, and they're going to be like, please do an air campaign with us, and please, we want to use all your tankers, and instead of 300 jets, we're going to use like our full 500, 600 jets, and we're going to try and like cow the Iranians into surrender by another decapitation strike, right? So it's going to be more of the shock and awe bullshit that they try. But yeah, like
At this
there's
point, I
no off
suspect
ramp.
most
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
very important people are under about 200 meters of mountain right now.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
So
it's
yeah,
like, yeah, you got that because of the element of surprise. You don't get a second surprise attack.
yeah, and you don't get like Trump was bragging the other day is like, "Oh yeah, I distracted them with my negotiations, right? It was all a ploy." And as they were distracted, Israel hit them really hard. Like the fucking orange, and I apologize because I'm gonna say it. The orange nigger, basically, he goes on Twitter, right? He just not Twitter, but Truth Social. He talks like this, and I just like, you fucking retard. You're a damn orange nigger. What are you doing? You basically told the Iranians that you're a party to the conflict. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
yeah, man, I fucking distracted those sand niggers, and now the Israelis hit them so hard, it's amazing. And then a few hours later, when Iran starts, launching wave number one, wave number two, wave number three, then a few hours later, wave number four, and then Trump's like, "Oh, hello, Crown Prince bin Salman, please, 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 please tell the Iranians to talk with us. We want a diplomatic end. We don't want to discuss." Fucking retard, man. Like these people, holy shit. Like I'm sorry, Sir Kenaz, but America has become pathetic. I'm sorry,
Well,
but
no,
yeah,
America has never been good at foreign policy. We're a
yeah.
young nation. Like John Michael Greer says, we're still essentially a barbarian empire. The only thing we know how to do is rattle a saber and growl menacingly. We don't know negotiation. I mean, we even used barbarian tactics in World War II. We just brought a whole bunch of men in and won by sheer weapons and numbers.
And
I
by
mean,
sheer energy, and by
yeah.
sheer energy and material surplus. That's basically it's like, oh yeah, enough. America is this amazing strategic. Uh, no, bro, you're not well versed in the art and science of warfare. What you are well versed in is you've got a shit ton of resources, and you had a very, very good once upon a time, you had a very, very good civilian industry. And so, like all the guys making cars on the assembly lines, they're now making tanks. Do the tanks have to be perfect? No, man. They just gotta be like 70, 80%, right?
Oh no,
70,
Germany
80%.
and Japan, like Germany had
Yeah.
better tanks than we did. Japan
Yeah,
had
but it
better
didn't matter. Like
airplanes.
America,
Oh, we just had
exactly.
more of them.
There we go. More mass, right? America wins because of mass. America doesn't win because of quality, man. America has been a nation far less than Russia has had an actual like military. Did you notice, Sirkinas?
Yeah. Oh no. I mean, the Russians have had an empire for centuries. The Persians have been a great culture since the Bronze Age. I mean, the Chinese, there's been a Chinese civilization before there was metal. So it's like
Mm-hmm.
we're dealing with people who have a long history to look back on. We don't really have that history. We don't know how to negotiate from a position of weakness. We don't even know how to negotiate from a position where we're dealing with, an equal opposing power.
And it's a great part due to the geography of America because it's situated between two oceans. It never got
Mm-hmm.
bombed. It never got decimated by foreign armies or never been invaded, just like Russia was or Japan was or any other country was in history. So they do not know what it feels like to be on the losing side.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
also, and
the
if I
only
may
place
add,
that knows that in the
yeah,
United
yeah.
States is the South. I mean, the South has a very distinct culture because they've experienced being defeated in a war and having your cities burned firsthand.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
here
Yeah,
Go ahead,
and
has.
Sir Sorcerer. You wanted to finish your point. Go ahead, Sir Sorcerer.
yeah. I just wanted to add just one point that America always waited for the battle to be won by either side, either lefties or righties or whatever, and then just enter the fray after the losing side was clearly losing. It happened
Mm-hmm.
in First World War when the Germans were finally losing. Then they decided, okay, let's have the French to win the war, and then they did the same in the Second World War when they saw that the the Third Reich is decimated on the battlefields of Eastern Europe. And when the tide is turned and then Russians started to invade Europe from the east, then they decided, okay, it's the time to enter the fray and then just start Normandy at the very end of the war, when basically the war was already lost for the Germans. So this is how you save manpower, this is how you save material, and this is how you just ensure that you have the best winning position at the very end.
Yeah. Like America, like Sir Kenaz was saying, and Sir Sorcerer also kind of touched on it, but basically America, it was favored by geography. That's basically all it is, right? It's not because, America, we are this like technological, intellectual system. No, that's not it. It's geography, right? And geography is no longer going to save America. It's not just missile technology. It's not just all these other things. Warfare has changed. You can now do like covert ops, as Sir Sorcerer eloquently noted a while ago. But basically, what I expect to happen, right, since we've decided to go from macro to micro, what I think is going to happen is Iran will now begin to hit civilian infrastructure, the Israeli stuff, so like desalination, nuclear, that sort of stuff. And then as the Israeli blackouts and brownouts begin, they're going to be like, okay, America, we need to do like a full-scale 500, 600 jet attack, and we have to use all your stuff. And at that point, I think America will be pulled into the conflict. I think it won't matter. It won't matter that there will be protests at home and whatever. I think like Trump doesn't give a fuck. From his point of view, it's like the protests that are happening nationwide today, June 14th. I think they called it a no Kings protest or whatever, right? I think he doesn't care. I think like from his point of view, he just views his position as completely solid, which is like a lethal mistake to make. But he's gonna pursue this quote unquote sandbox war. Oh, this time, don't worry, bros. MAGA bros, don't worry. This is the good sandbox war. All the other ones were, fake and gay, but this one's a good one. But anyhow, he's gonna do it, and yeah, he's gonna basically crumble the society, right? I think, Sir Kenaz, you're more optimistic than me. You're saying that American statehood will survive. I don't think it will. I think both the
I think it'll
empire.
last for a
Yeah,
while,
yeah,
after that. But, I just saw something come up on Telegram. I followed it through here on Twitter. Like,
yeah.
Honest Sorcerer, we just had an incident today where two Minnesota state senators were shot along with their spouses. The woman, Representative Melissa Hortman, is dead. The guy who was shot is alive but in critical condition. And she voted no on health care for illegals for illegal immigrants a couple days before the shooting. This is probably a left-wing shooting. So we're starting, we're starting now. This could be the precursor to or the first blow in a terrorist war in America. I mean, we've already had like a pro-Palestine person shoot up the Israeli embassy. We're starting to see, what we had in the 60s, we were lucky. In Europe, you had the Red Brigades, you had some people who were actually competent terrorists. Our terrorists, our communist terrorists blew up more of their own than they ever blew up anything of substance.
Oh, Sir Kenaz, why can't Americans do anything right? What's going on? They can't even do terrorism right.
I mean, I think a lot of basically FALN at that time, a Puerto Rican nationalist movement, was doing some really effective bombing campaigns in the United States, and they were performing some pretty serious acts. So a bunch of rich white college kids got the idea, we're going to follow in Fallen's footsteps. How hard can it be to make a bomb?
Actually, you're having a civil war on the back burner already since, I don't know, 10 years at least. Since Black Lives Matter, there is a civil war brewing at the back burner. And it doesn't have to be, that open civil war, what you had 150 years ago, where, North versus South. It can be just this amorphous, really hard to touch type of civil war where you have different factions, all against all, everybody against everybody. This type of chaotic civil war can also happen. So it doesn't have to be a clear-cut civil war. And it can also end up, just tearing the country apart, just into 16 different parts.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and we're starting to see that at this point. we've started to see crackdowns on protest in the United States because, like, America's Zionist lobby, I'm using that word specifically, listeners. I'm not saying the Jews, so please don't send me hate mail. They've been really fighting
Oh, Sir
hard.
Kenaz, you want more admirers, so you gotta use that word as well. You gotta use both words.
I mean, yeah,
Uh,
but no, I don't,
No worries, no worries.
I mean, I don't, you know, the problem is we've started cracking down on riots. There's a very good chance that what's going to happen next, I expect before too long we're going to see, like in the California riots or maybe in another riot, they're going to start doing things like throwing stuff at armed National Guardsmen who respond with live ammo. If that
Oh, that's
happens,
already happened.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Like
not
in Los
rubber bullets,
Angeles.
like metal bullets.
No, but like in Los Angeles, Sir Kenaz, protesters used actual firearms and they fired on like National Guard and those guys. It's already happening, right?
Yeah, when that
Like that
starts, yeah.
happened like that happened like June 11th or June 12th, right? That was actually one of the reasons why they ordered curfew, right? They ordered curfew because people were beginning to do that, right?
Yeah, they're throwing,
So,
like, they're doing a lot of stuff, but if it comes down to a point where you start seeing martial law and you start seeing a lot of people get shot in the streets, we're not like Iran, we're not like Bangladesh. Most of the protesters will go silent. This happened after Kent State in 1970. It
mhm, mhm,
happened with Kent State. Once the National Guard started using live ammo, the protests got much smaller and quieter.
mhm,
But
mhm,
what
mhm,
you did see is you saw the development of people going underground and saying, oh, okay, since peaceful protest is no longer possible, violent protest is inevitable. And that's when you started seeing things like, targeted assassinations and bombings. I expect what you're going to have is a hard, dedicated cadre of people of whatever cause who are going to be doing things like, shooting senators.
Or
And
yeah,
people who have nothing to lose, because if your prospects are a prison in El Salvador, no matter what, then you will be, shooting firearms and bombing people because you don't want to get there. So you will try to fight.
yeah, in
mhm,
And
America,
that makes the situation very dangerous.
yeah,
yeah.
here it becomes the added thing here is in America, it's much easier to get firearms.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
more so than just about any place in the world. We don't even really have to cook up bombs. Somebody who knows how to shoot from a couple hundred yards, like somebody, who's had some training in like sharpshooting from a couple hundred yards, can do an awful lot of damage and be out, like, if in the right area, and be out of the area before anybody knows what's happened. We had one
Mhm,
that started a few years back
mhm,
where we had several men started shooting at a power transformer. They were able to damage it, but not damage it like really seriously. If they had pulled it off, they might have taken down like the Northern California power grid.
mhm, mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
I heard
So
mhm,
about that.
that's like, we're a very big country. I mean, you take out a lev, you take out one of the what are they called? Not levees. Well, you take out a levee, you can flood a whole lot of farmland. You take out one of the gates on the Mississippi River that the boats use to get coming through, you can basically shut down about 20% of our domestic traffic.
Yeah, but that takes a lot of explosions and a lot of explosive material. But what if just, the same tactic goes home, like, building drones with small explosives and then just flying it into transformer stations or into police stations or whatever. So this could really spiral out of hand really quick.
Yeah, I mean, those are absolutely possibilities. We've learned from seeing Sudan, from seeing all over the place, you know, a few dozen men on motorcycles with guns can do an awful lot of damage and be out of there before anybody spots them.
Yeah,
That's also an opportunity. Yeah.
that's the next several weeks and months in America, I think, because like I don't like Sir Kenneth thinks it's gonna die down. I don't think it's gonna die down simply because for a lot of people this is existential. It's like, you know, this is my family member or relative you're trying to deport forcibly, and I won't stand for it. And I mean, you know, whether it's like the shooter shooting the Minnesota, obviously it's for healthcare and other reasons, but you're gonna see more and more like Luigi copycats, and eventually they'll organize. They'll just be like, well, why is it the case that I have to be a lone wolf shooter? I can just like organize with like motorcycle gangs or whatever, right? And you know, like Sir Malcolm, he used the expression Sengoku America. I think that's what it is. I think we're headed towards Sengoku America, basically, right? Like the Warring States period or whatever, right?
Thank you, Governor, and thank you, everyone, for being here today. My name is Drew Evans, and I'm the superintendent at the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension. I want to start by...
Hold on. Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. Is that the Minnesota thing you were watching?
I was just watching to see. I wanted to see how John Hoffman voted. Hortman voted against against health care for illegal immigrants. If Hoffman did, I'd be pretty certain that this is, they're targeting politicians they see as anti-immigration. If that's the case, if that's the case and this person has any experience either in a South American army or in a South American cartel, they could be really dangerous.
Yeah. Things are going to get interesting, Sir Kenaz.
Yeah. Oh, they're going to be very interesting.
Yeah, may you live in interesting times.
May you live in interesting times. There we go. Yeah. So, yeah, like I'm just like trying to figure out what the next shoe to drop is, right? At this point, it's a question of when, not if. America is going to go get in a war with Iran in a, like air conflict at the bare minimum. Then the next shoe to drop will probably be like these protests getting more violent and like armed men will actually fire back at National Guard and military. Because believe it or not, folks, the Marines are not as well armed as you think they are, especially against a couple of these civilian groups and civilian outfits. So yeah, what's gonna be after that? So that happens, and the other thing happens. No, like the country's gonna fracture. There's other things that's happening. The bond market is being imploded as we speak, thanks to like Trump's Liberation Day bullshit, right? Like the convergent crises are everywhere. Like the poly crisis is here. It's just that we don't know what the timeline is. Is it gonna be a few months? Is it gonna be a few years? Is it gonna be a decade? I don't know, right? But 2025 and beyond, this is like we're in the end times already with regard to like America as like a state, right? Like I don't think it's just empire. I think America, the unified state of 9.6 million square kilometers, I think we're seeing its last days basically.
Exactly. And someone predicted after the fall of the Soviet Union that America is just 30 years behind. And here we go.
30 years behind. Yeah.
I mean, I think
like that's how it is.
Trump in the beginning was trying, he was making some good news, some good moves. Yes, we should move out of Europe. We don't really have the funds to subsidize European militaries anymore. Europe has to learn to deal with that. Yes, we should have at least polite relationships with Russia. We don't, an American-Russian war has like a very high chance of turning into a thermonuclear war, and nobody wants that. He was doing a lot of the right things, but when it comes to Zionism, like Zion Don just couldn't make a right decision. If he was like smeared with right decision attractor and put in a plant full of right decision attracting flowers to draw the right decision to him. He just has that big blind spot, and we're going to wind up losing a lot of soldiers over this.
Understatement of the year, Sir Kenaz. Oh, it's going to be really bad, especially when the straits get blockaded. By the way, I'm using the word when. I'm not using the word if. It's just a question of when do the Straits of Hormuz get blockaded. So,
I mean,
you know.
they don't even need to be blockaded officially.
Yeah.
They need.
Go ahead.
All they need to do is, if a war breaks out and ships don't feel safe, like going into the region, if
just
the
like,
insurance goes up so high that, like, the price of gas doubles.
just like the thing that happened in the Red Sea with the Houthis. And they actually started to bomb selectively the ships which are going to Europe or going to North America, and then insurance companies stopped insuring those type of ships, but the Chinese and the Russians could go through. So the same thing could happen here as well, because they are good friends. So why not let the friends pass and then
there we go.
Those bastards on the other side of the ocean, left without
give them
oil.
a harder time. Yeah, give them a harder time, basically. Yeah. No, like the Straits of Hormuz and like the Red Sea, there's a lot of parallels. Like there's a lot of issues happening with tankers and freight already. But if you want to really destroy the global supply chain, you have to do like an actual blockade of the Straits of Hormuz, right? If you block the Red Sea, it's not the end of the world. You can still get through the Suez Canal. You're going to have enormous delays. You're going to have all these accidents. You're going to have all these issues with insurance. But, theoretically, there is a path, point A to point B. You just got to go through the Suez Canal somehow. If you're 6 weeks late, a lot of people go bankrupt, a lot of companies fall apart, but hey, at least you got to your destination. That option is not available if the Straits of Hormuz get blockaded, right? There's no like alternate pathway of, oh yeah, bro, there's an overland route where the Saudi and the, UAE oil is going to go over. No, man, that does not exist. So people don't understand how the global economy works, unfortunately. For them, it's just like, oh, Iran is a pussy, Iran's a cock. Nothing's going to happen. And it's just vibes posting, man. It's like you have this like dirt, like these people think themselves to be clever and intelligent, man. I just see a bunch of emotion, right? They don't understand what's going on. They're getting squeezed. They're getting squeezed right now, and they can't notice it, right? They're not noticing it, but when they do, it'll be too late. So, yeah. Like the Europeans, for example, right? They still like they're supporting America and doing all this shit. I mean, okay, are you gonna still do the same thing when the straits get blockaded and Iran just flat out tells you, yeah, European markets are not gonna receive this oil from Saudi Arabia and the UAE and the gas from Qatar or whatever, right? Like, are they still gonna say that? Well, if they are gonna say that, are they gonna say it 6 months from now, a year from now? Like when the global economy collapses, bro, like, what was the name of that gentleman? I'm trying to remember. He's at King's College, London. He's one of these guys who studies warfare for a living. And he went over the literature. But I don't know if gents know this, but the likelihood of a civil war at any given year right now is hovering between 4% and 5%. So this is for Western nations. So like, okay, what is the likelihood of a civil war popping up in Britain? It's like 4 to 5%, right? Now, what is the likelihood of a civil war popping up over the next 5 years in any one Western country? Well, it actually is about 18 to 20%. Okay, what is the likelihood of a civil war popping off in any Western country, not just one Western country, but in any Western countries over the next 5 years? And the number he got to was well over 50%, right? And so we're already headed in that direction. It's just that the numbers and the trends and the patterns are not known by most people. The way they view it is, the West is the best or whatever, and nothing's ever going to happen here, right? And meanwhile, they're surrounded by all this shit that's happening, whether it's the interethnic conflict, whether it's the actual war in the Middle East that just kicked off 2 days ago, or whether it's all this other stuff, right? Like nobody is paying attention. They're all like going off vibes and shit, and it's sad and pathetic to watch. But that's what it is. You just like, these are not people who can maintain and preserve civilization, right? These are people who are forever in like the world of simulacra and forever in the world of like, reminiscing about the past and whatever, right? And I don't think they're going to grow out of it. Like, I think these guys, like, even if the city gates are opened and the barbarians march in, I think they'll still be like engaging in delusion when that happens.
Exactly. And in the meantime, the middle class is just being decimated. And then the people in Europe get poorer and poorer. Cost of living crisis is really going really bad in a very bad direction. And then if oil gets more expensive in Europe, for example, then people will not be able to fill up their cars and then not be able to go to work. And this is when things really turn spicy, so to say, as it happened in France a few years ago, when just a few cents of additional tax was added to the gasoline price, and then streets were blocked, and then people started to rioting. And this can easily replicate if something bad happens to the Strait of Hormuz.
Sir Kenaz, how
Yes.
liberated are you going to feel when you pay $20 for a gallon of gas?
Oh, I'm going to feel so liberated I won't be able to contain myself. I mean, we were like feeling the pain. We're like, we're fortunate in that like my wife uses public transportation to get to
Nice,
work.
nice. Yeah, nice.
But we have a car, but it's like it's not going, the Straits of Hormuz closing is basically, a baseball bat to the knees of the global economy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's like, and there's no way an Iran war trips off without the straits being either closed or becoming too dangerous to navigate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but the Chinese will have a word or two in this regard. So they will not allow, Iran to close down the Strait of Hormuz without ships going into China packed full of oil, going through unharmed. China needs a lot of oil. They are the biggest importer of oil after Europe, I believe. So they are the second biggest, or probably now the biggest importers of oil. So they will need that badly. And since sanctions prevent Iran to export oil to Europe or to every other location, they are the only source of oil for China. Actually, not the only source, but the major source of oil for China. And the other part comes from the UAE and these Arab states. But Iranian oil is really vital to the Chinese.
So the chances of China supplying Iran with weapons to go against, like to weapons to defend themselves against the Israelis and Americans is pretty high. And there's a non-trivial chance of China sending troops.
China has explicitly said that if the trade route, namely the Straits of Hormuz, gets shut down and supply of oil to China is jeopardized, China will intervene, right? Which is why, like, the blockade is going to be selective when it does happen. And I'm using the word when, not if. When it does happen, ships to China and Russia will probably go through, but other ships to Western nations won't, right? And yeah, like, it's not just, Sir Ken, as you said, like, weapon shipments. Yeah, like, China will have to, because again, it's existential survival at that point. It's like, well, if we don't have the spice flowing, right, the economy stops functioning. Because again, energy is the economy, right? Energy is the economy. So it's like, well, we don't get the energy, so we don't have an economy. So what that means is we got to head there right now and open it up, right? There's no like other alternative, right? Which is why, like, when the Americans get involved in this, and again, I'm using the word when, not if, because right now we are not in the Third World War. What we are in is we're in the Third Gulf War. We're in the Third Gulf War, and the Third Gulf War is now like a ramp or an escalator towards like the Third World War. But in order for it to be the Third World War, it would have to be like America does an air campaign and they start hitting stuff near the Straits of Hormuz, like Iranian refineries and that kind of stuff. And at that point, yeah, China and Russia intervene basically, right? So that's kind of where we're headed right now. At least that's how I see it.
And when you mention America getting involved, you mean direct involvement, because indirectly America is already deeply involved into this situation that we are witnessing, as the tweet of Mr. Trump
Yeah.
in the recently, but also as many news channels just keep reporting that America is very, very deeply involved in weapons shipment, in intelligence sharing, everything.
Yeah.
So it's really just the third Gulf War based through proxies.
It's a matter of scope, not sorry, it's a matter of scale and scope. It's not a qualitative, exactly, right? Because America is already involved. It's just like right now, America is using tankers to refuel Israeli jets, and they're supplying weapons and that kind of stuff. The next step after that is to actually like scramble jets itself and like hit Iranian oil, Iranian refineries, and that sort of stuff, right? So once you start seeing,
Yeah, but
Go
Israel
ahead,
was very selective in their targeting. So they deliberately avoided Iranian oil infrastructure just to prevent the retaliation on
Yeah,
Saudi oil infrastructure, and
well,
they
that was
try to
true.
keep it on a
Yeah,
minimum.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
this is why this
Exactly,
is more
exactly,
like
exactly,
a
exactly.
regime change or operation, not a real operation against the nuclear installations, because they are so deeply buried under the mountains that you will not be able to just bomb them out of there. You will have to first stop with the regime, and this is what is aimed at. So, and I don't believe that that Israel will stop attempting to topple the regime or behead the regime, and they will just repeatedly try and try. And as we have seen in Lebanon, just basically it was a year ago, the entire building complex was collapsed on top of the head of the, what was that organization? It was
Hezbollah.
Hezbollah. Yeah, the word, yeah, escaped me. Hezbollah, the leader of Hezbollah, and then it was basically the end of the Lebanon war. So it can happen anytime. So we are not, perfectly out of the
I
woods.
don't think the war ended. I don't think the war ended with the beheading operation. What it did was it kept going for about 2 or 3 more months, and then
Mhm.
they came to like a tentative agreement that okay, like Israel, we got about 800 meters in, we're just gonna withdraw basically, and it was basically like a status quo antebellum. The thing is that
Mhm.
that's not really possible because jets have finite range. Israeli jets can get. Lebanon is right next door. Iran is literally like the western border is 600 miles away, right? Once you look at Tehran and whatever, right, it's like 1,000 miles away. You can't actually do that operation with like the jets that you have, and jets are not going to ever do that operation just because of like the logistical bottlenecks. Because again, we have to remember, for every hour of flight time, there's multiple hours of maintenance, right? And like I think the number, I mean, the Iranians are saying they've already shot down 3. We have confirmation of 2 so far from like non-Iranian sources, Western sources, and these other guys. But it's like 2 F-35 jets have already been shot down, right? And it's not even been 72 hours in this like war because this is the third Gulf War, right? So the
Yeah, this
Israelis,
is
what they're
where.
doing, yeah, what they're basically doing is they're using Syrian and Iraqi airspace to fire off these things, and it's basically terrorism slash an attempt at decapitation, and we know why decapitation will fail. But like they're doing this, but the main reason the surprise attack was so successful in like the terrorism aspect was because you had people inside Iran who were helping out the Israelis with like the drones and stuff and whatever, right? And like Sir Kenneth was saying, the element of surprise is gone. So you're not really going to see a similar surprise attack. And if that's the case, then I mean, I don't really understand what the Israelis can do other than go up the ladder and be like, okay, now America help us out, right? Because that's the logical next step of like, okay, well, we don't have range, but hey, America has air bases in Qatar and these places, they can lift off and they can bomb Iran better than us, right? And so that's why I was talking about the American air campaign being like the logical next step, basically.
And they have B-52s as well with a much longer range, which can, bomb everything
They have only
within
6.
uranium.
Yeah, like they only have 6 functional. That's the thing. It's like
Mhm.
on paper they say 20. Sir Malcolm Kayune, we've had him on the show a lot of times, but like he reads all the documents and the white papers the Americans put out with regard to combat readiness and effectiveness and what can fly and what cannot fly. They only have 6 B-52s basically. They
Hmm.
have like the remaining 14 are basically inoperable due to like defects and like wear and tear and the fact that, all this other shit. But basically 6 B-52s, and oh, by the way, you probably have to like fly them from Diego Garcia just because like the other bases will not accept them. Like the locals would not accept them. They're just be like, no, we're not interested in a bomber taking off from this airbase and then attacking Iran because this place is going to be hit then, right? So you'd have to take off from Diego Garcia. It's going to be a very long flight, like well over 1,000 miles. You're going to get there and you probably need a refueler as well, just because like once you add in cargo, the range for your bomber goes down. So as you're doing all this stuff, so it's basically nonsense. I mean, you're talking about 6 B-52 bombers, I would say a couple hundred tons of ordnance. I guess you could do some terrorism with it. You could probably like kill a few civilians, but that's really it. Like at that point, the U.S. is spent. It's like, okay, well, what do you do next? And you might even lose all your B-52s, by the way, just to like the more advanced stuff, like the S-400s, the S-500s. Because remember, the Israelis, they kept everything out of range as they were firing. Like they were firing not from Iranian airspace, they were firing from like Syrian and Iraqi airspace. But America won't have that option because the B-52 is like gravity bomb, right? So you got to go above the target, right? So yeah, I mean they
Maybe
did
some
it
cruise
with
missiles.
Yemen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they did it with Yemen. I don't think they can even do it with Iran. They'd probably have to do something like uh an air campaign, but it's gonna be us doing something similar to the Israelis. So we kind of don't touch Iranian airspace. We go just up to it and just outside it, and then we fire off our load. I think that's basically what they're gonna go for, just to make sure that they don't lose their stuff.
Yeah, the big question for Iran actually is how do they get rid of the Israeli spies? I'm sure that
Mm-hmm.
they have very good informants within the IRGC and other organizations in Iran,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they can tip off which base the next leader is hiding and which base to bomb or which base to, I don't know, place an explosive charge to. So it can. So it's not that easy that using sheer power and then just
Oh
explode
yeah,
everything
yeah.
and things will go away. And there are covert
Oh, it won't
operations
go away.
which are underway, and then it's not that easy.
Oh, it's not easy at all, because what's going to happen is, even if Israel ceases to exist tomorrow, which is like a miraculous thing, but even if that happened tomorrow, Iran is looking at several years of like getting rid of these spies and whatever. Uh,
Yeah.
and state entities in general have this disadvantage against sub-state entities like this, because like, you know, you're trying to like find a needle in a haystack. That's the first aspect, and the second aspect is simply the case that you can only have a little bit of attention at one thing at any given time, right? Meanwhile, these things are all decentralized, fluid, and they're just like moving around across the population in whatever way they wish, right? I think like they arrested 73 or 74 of the spies, and most of them were like Indian origin. So like Sir Kenaz,
Hmm.
full support Sar. They were doing that, right? We probably need like a soundbite just for like, the Indian stuff, and like you have like the Jewish soundtrack, but we need like the Indian.
What are you doing?
I'm adding this
Am
to
I your prostitute?
I'm adding this
No!
to your cash.
No! 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 No!
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
no, we've got like the spies are going to be a problem because Israel has an excellent spy network. That's one
Yeah,
thing
yeah.
they truly excel at, is like spying and sedition. But
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah.
that's one of the things they do very well. I mean, there's also a problem is spies bring you information, and information is only useful if you can really do something about it.
Oh yeah.
It's like realistically here, I see Netanyahu just told like a press conference, Israel has indications that senior Iranian leaders are packing their bags. They understand what's coming. It's like, yes, they're packing and they're going under 200 meters of rock in a mountain fortress.
There we go.
Unless you drop a nuke on it, you're not really going to be able to do anything with that information. You're spinning it well. What's happened is, again, you don't get a second surprise attack.
Yeah. Yeah. That's basically it.
Unless you manage to smuggle an assassin inside that base and then get rid of that general. Actually, what happened to the previous president was really for me a lot of very suspicious that there was some foreign intelligence agency involved, because the helicopter crashed into a mountain in a foggy condition, and as far as I remember, there were no mechanical issues with the helicopter, so it probably was
Yeah.
pilot's fault. And maybe if the pilot was, I don't know, hired by a foreign intelligence agency, then it can be an easy way to get rid of the president. Maybe that was again a decapitation strike or attempt at a decapitation strike.
Yeah, I didn't study that one that closely, but you could definitely be correct. It's gonna be very difficult to get rid of these like pests, right? But ultimately, like, even if you can't get rid of them entirely, uh wars are not won and lost by spies. It's a very romantic Hollywood thing people think about, but that's not their objective. Spies are a enabling factor, right? And they disable the opponent and they enable you. But as Sir Kenaz was saying, the information that they give you and all this other stuff, you have to be able to use it, right? Like if Israel is being hit, and I think the number I saw, like Sir Carolina Lion, who I follow on Twitter, he's one of the few good accounts on it, but like he was basically saying that if Iran decided to fire 500 missiles every day at Israel, right? Even after like 3 months plus, they would still have their huge amounts of missiles left over. So they can just continue doing this till the end, for like several years. That's how many missiles they got, right? And so like you can't survive that, man. I mean, the economy would fall apart. No one's going to work. Infrastructure is completely kaput. I mean, at that point, you're on the next level. You're not a failed state. You're like a super failed state, right? And like everyone else around you, like they don't really like you, and they're gonna take advantage and attack you while that's happening. So there you go.
Yeah.
Actually,
Okay.
Iran is walking a tightrope here to prevent the direct involvement of the US, and they are just measuring the response, just to avoid the direct involvement of the US, but punishing
Yeah.
Israel as much as they can.
I don't think like they don't want America to be involved. You're correct, but I don't think they're walking that tightrope anymore. Because like I saw their foreign minister. Sometimes I watch him and I look at his body language and what he's saying, and he just flat out said there's no point in having talks of any sort whatsoever with Iran, with USA or Israel or whatever, because they deceived us, and there's no point, and they're gonna attack us and fight us anyway. So we just gotta get ready for that, right? So that's what they've been saying. I think they were walking a tightrope with the nuclear talks because they thought that, okay, even though we can't trust these guys, at least we can delay Trump or whatever and these guys for a few years. And then when the next president or whatever shows up, we can do something else, right? But, now that Trump has deceived them, I think that option's off the table, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
The thing is, right, like, and it's hilarious. Like, Trump literally just admitted it online, right? All he had to do was keep shut. He'd just be like, "Oh no, we didn't know anything, bro. Like we didn't know anything about Israel doing this. Oh, too bad, right?" But no, like he had to fucking open his mouth and be an orange nigger. So there you go.
Especially after his Secretary of State tried to smear the thing a little bit, just we're not involved and
we're not involved, bro. We're not involved. And then
yeah.
like 5 hours later, his boss puts that up online. That's hilarious.
Yeah, no, one of Trump's two big weaknesses. The first one is Trump is really thin-skinned and has a big ego, which leads him a lot of times to his second weakness, which is Trump pops off at the mouth all the time without thinking. And it's just, you can't do that when you're the president of the United States. And you really can't do that when you're the president of the United States and the U.S. might be landing into a war that could blossom into World War III.
Oh,
Well,
Sir
that's what we
Kenaz.
have.
Yeah, that's what you got, Sir Kenaz.
I mean, that's what we got.
That's the elected president. That's the elected president of the United States. So that's what you're stuck with.
Okay, here's something interesting. The suspect in the shootings in Minnesota exchanged fire with police and escaped. They found his car and it had a bunch of like No Kings flyers on it for like No Kings is the protests that are scheduled for today. I mean, that would be, so it's like, okay, so he's anti-Trump, but there's a part of me, this could just be suspicion and paranoia, but I'm kind of like, that's a very convenient thing to keep in your car if you were a foreign agent who was trying to spread fear, chaos, and disorder.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy appears to be pretty talented at what he does. This is not like just a lone nut. It's like you exchanged fire with 3 police officers, escaped. It's like, it is possible the police officers were incompetent. That does happen occasionally in the United States. In fact, happens more than occasionally, but that's neither here nor there. But it's like, there are a lot of people who would benefit from American politicians becoming scared for their lives.
And it doesn't have to be, foreign agents. It can be just, just factions of oligarchs fighting within each other in the States. You have plenty of oligarchs over there. They are just, really hating each other. And who knows who is
good sir, you can't call them
supporting which
oligarchs.
side.
Good sir,
Oligarchs.
good sir.
Only the Russians
only the
have
Soviets.
oligarchs. We have
Only the Russians.
billionaires.
Yeah, we have billionaires.
I'm sorry.
Good sir.
No, I mean, it's like we have a class that is entirely, in all ways is equal to the Russian oligarch class. And there is a fight going on between like what we call, the PMCs, the professional managerial class, and the tech bros right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, we are looking for basically, I think one of the things that spawned this is from 2020 to like 2024, the government started making lots of thinly veiled threats against social media companies like, well, you can censor all of this bad information, or you can be looking down the barrel of a tax audit kind of things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, that really ticked a lot of them off. Multi-billionaires don't like being told what to do. So,
Nope.
a lot of them have turned, a lot of them figured, okay, we don't particularly like Trump, but Trump will get rid of this for us.
Yeah. 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 And the thing with Trump is that Trump is viewed not as a savior figure, but he's viewed as like, okay, well, if we get him on our side, we can do all this shit to these people, right? But I think what they've realized, and I think Elon Musk is one of the first people to figure this out, is that Trump's more senile than Joe Biden, number one. And number two, Trump's not gonna save your ass, bro. Like Trump's gonna fucking put you in the grill, man, and he's gonna grill you, right? And Elon Musk has basically been what happened to him is he has now been exiled from the world of politics. He ain't coming back, right? And Doge or whatever the fuck he was doing, that's not gonna amount to anything. And like more and more billionaires are going to find out that, hey, I paid all this money to this guy Trump for patronage or whatever, but the gravy train, I'm not gonna get a slice of that, right? Like, the senile orange nigger Trump is just gonna do whatever the fuck he wants, and like I can't even pocket money and engage in corruption and graft anymore. So what the fuck is the point, right? And I think that's gonna happen as this like no kings. It's not, I don't know if it's gonna be the thing that catches on. Maybe like there's gonna be 12, 13, 14, 15 more waves of other different protesters, but it's gonna take a while. But eventually you're gonna see more and more like fracturing.
Yeah, and protest groups also tend to spend like when you start getting non-state political groups, they spend as much time feuding with each other as they do feuding with the government.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Sir Americanit said something. Okay, let me actually read this out. This is actually very relevant. I mean, it might not seem relevant, but it is. Okay. Americanits, aka Ripple Brain on Twitter. We are slowly watching a chunk of the so-called base right wing transmogrify ever further into something pitiable and cringe, as the arbiters of the policies they want to see implemented reveal themselves to be toothless, traitorous, or incompetent. The only way to retain a shred of dignity is to attempt to hold them accountable, at least rhetorically. Is Stephen Miller still a based, dark MAGA goblin who strikes fear in the hearts of your enemies if all he does is request ICE look around a Home Depot parking lot while deportation numbers are a minuscule fraction of what you want them to be? Does he deserve the memes you're making about him if all he does is lose because every one of his initiatives gets shot down in the courts? The irony is that the administration is capable of taking extreme action, but only when that action benefits the state of Israel and the Zionist entity. When you double down on supporting those actions while ignoring the failures to implement the policies you continue to say you care deeply about, it comes off as deeply pathetic. Drop the illegals out of B-52s on Iran is a joke for a time when mass deportation seemed possible, not for a few days after Trump massively backslid on even trying to conduct mass deportations. The edginess falls flat and it turns into something else, a retreat into the world of fantasy rather than an admission of having been stabbed in the back. Ouch! Sir Kenaz, we need a soundtrack for that. That was brutal. That was fucking brutal, man. Holy shit. I just read that and I'm like, oh, I had to read this out on the podcast. That was like, oh my gosh, that was brutal. All right, I'm gonna pass this around and talk about that. Is fucking Sir Americanus. We need him on one of the future shows. I need him back. Yeah, that was amazing. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, actually, what really bothers me as a European is that this deportation thing, and I don't want to take stance left or right, but from an outside view, this deportation thing is a very slippery slope, because you first
Yeah.
deport illegals, but then you start deporting people with different views, as it happened to those, I don't know, what was the name of the student who had a green card but then still got deported because he had different views on Israel. And then you start deporting, political opponents, and then you start building those prison camps inside the US, and then start putting undesired people into those prison camps, which can be a very good business, because prison is a good business in America. And this can be a really dangerous place to go. And this is a really dangerous direction which America is going in. This is why civil war is really brewing in the back burner, because
Europe has
a
had
certain
the
funny thing
direct
is,
experience of why this
we have
is
seen
bad.
we have seen this where this experience goes, and this is not a good experience.
Well, here's the funny thing, right? Like everything that you said is true, but America doesn't even have the muscle to implement it. Like ICE is actually a diminishing, they have like 21,000 officers. And, I was talking to a guy a few days ago. I told him, okay, man, do the math. 21,000 officers working 16 hours a day, and they have access to this much equipment. How many people can they deport? Like the reason the Trump deportation numbers are so low is not because Trump lacks willpower or some shitty reason like that. It's because of energy material flows. They act like American law enforcement and all these other fucking memes they make, oh yeah, America going after the illegal migrant. That's not even true anymore. It's like the guy's fucking falling apart, but he's making it even worse. What he's doing is he's putting the cameras on like moms and kids being forcibly ripped apart. And at his time of absolute weakness, where law enforcement is falling apart, and like the Los Angeles Police Department, they just flat out say, yeah, like you sent us 9,000 men. Sorry, bros, we're still being overwhelmed. We need more, right? Like they can't even do like 10% of everything that you just said. It's like prison camps and this kind of shit. They're just fucking failing, right? And the thing is, they're just making the sub-state actors more emboldened to fight back and beat them back with like everything they've got, because like they're behaving like a bunch of scum and criminals, right? And so it's like there was a guy on one of the Telegram chats. He just said, okay, they should siege Los Angeles and like cut off the water and the food or whatever. And I told him, do you know how many people live in Los Angeles? It's got 3.8 million people. The standard
You're breaking
military
up
match
on
is you
us.
divide that number by 20, right? That's how many troops you need. Yeah, I'm breaking up, but what I was saying was that Los Angeles needs like 200,000 troops to fucking siege the place, quote unquote. And standard. I mean, there's no army for this. There's no police force for this, and we're assuming, by the way, 100% compliance. That like you give the police and the military the orders and they implement it 100%. That's not going to happen. Like a lot of people will simply refuse. Many other people will fight one another. But like let's assume 100% compliance. Even then, the numbers are not there. The math is not there, right? It's not just about limitation on energy and materials. It's also limitation of like warm human bodies, the ability to implement these things, and also the fact that like just by sheer geography alone, if America could not like defeat Yemen, it's not going to defeat California. If America could not defeat like Iraq, Afghanistan, it's not going to defeat Appalachia. It can't do anything. Like these right wing bros, they say, oh, you can just do things. Bullshit, bro. You couldn't do anything for the last 30 years. You couldn't do shit for the last 30 years. You got kicked out of all these places. That's why you lost. You keep losing and you say you're gonna. Man, this is pathetic. I'm sorry, man, but this is just when I see people like this, I just laugh at their face. I'm like, you couldn't do anything for the last 30 years. What are you talking about, bro?
You've got a point there. That's a really good point.
Yeah. Like I always look at a person's actions, right? Like if a guy is yelling loudly that, oh, Iran is a pussy, Iran is a cuck, and then you look at like the flight traffic data and you literally see him flying all his big jets away from the base and towards Turkey, you're like, bro, you're lying, man. If you believe Iran is a cuck and Iran's not going to do anything, why the fuck are you moving your assets? Right? So actions, man. Actions speak louder than words. And when I see this whole like immigration stuff, there's not going to be any mass deportations. What's going to happen is Trump's going to goad the Arito America and the anti deportation people on the left by posting more and more like performative stuff. like, what's the name of that lady? Like Chrissy Noam, whatever. She's gonna take more and more pictures of herself with like that cap on in front of like detention centers, and it's just gonna give rise to like shooters, lone gunmen, motorcycle gangs, and so on and so forth. I do not view the future as one where there's gonna be lots of prison camps and shit. I think it's just gonna be chaos and anarchy, right? It's just gonna be like, the fucker Trump is like trying to remigrate or deport my mom. I'm gonna kill, shoot the fucker in the face. That's basically the future. It's gonna be like lots of men like that, basically.
Yeah, America is a very different culture than Europe. So in Europe,
Oh,
you
yeah,
tend
yeah,
to, obey the military
yeah,
leader or the political leader
yeah, yeah,
more
yeah, yeah.
than,
Oh,
than in
yeah,
America. Yeah.
yeah,
And don't you see that this is, instilling fear in some of the people, at least in America, just, maybe I will not raise my voice, or maybe I will, stop protesting because all these things are happening, all these riots are happening, but because, maybe I will be deported next time. So is it, have a fear effect?
Mhm. It's gonna have a lot of fear effects, but basically the result of that fear is gonna be men who speak loudly and who seem very confident taking up charge. And these are the guys, the boys with the toys, as I like to say. They got the motorcycles, they got the heavy. Like it's gonna be, we are headed toward neo-feudalism. That's where we're headed. It's gonna be like, here's my turf, here's your turf. Like, if you want to see what the future looks like, Sir Sorcerer, go to Haiti and go to the Democratic Republic of Congo. In Haiti, the gangs have taken over 80% of the city. And whether it's foreign troops from like Kenya, you've got mercenaries from the UK, you've got like Australia, Canada, they've all sent help. They've not been able to defeat the gangs, right? That's the
Mhm.
future. It's going to be like more and more of that, basically, right? And, it's
Right.
corruption. Some of the gangs, they take like money and like bribes. Some of them don't. Some of them, like, okay, well, you're going to give us the bitches, basically, the girls and the children, and then that's how we take our like payment. It's not in money. It's gonna be like that, basically, and like more and more of the world is gonna devolve into that, right? As warfare becomes more low tech, and you have like more insurgency and counterinsurgency. So, but that's like several decades and centuries away, right? Uh,
Or
at
Speaking
maybe
least
of,
that's
not,
how I picture things.
maybe
Yeah,
not. As you said, it's already the present reality in Haiti, but also in Lebanon, as I hear.
yeah, yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
the
Lebanon is
street
another
gangs are,
example.
yeah,
thing
street gangs
about
are actually providing the basic security service,
yeah,
Mhm.
but not in a right way.
the thing about
Oh yeah,
Haiti, I have visited Haiti.
yeah,
Haiti is a very, very mountainous island. Basically,
yes,
and mountains are very, very hard to fight in. Well, there's
yes.
two of the roughest terrains to fight in are jungles and mountains, and basically
Hmm.
most of Haiti that isn't mountain is jungle.
Hmm.
Or with
Hmm.
Port-au-Prince, which is a big sprawling urban warfare area.
Hmm.
So it's
Hmm.
like this
Hmm.
is what we could expect this if we try to do a land war with Iran. Only
Exactly.
difference being Iran has like a bigger population and they're better trained.
And it's about surface area is like what 100 times that of Haiti, so that as well.
Yeah, no, this is why every time I hear like what was Tehran by Christmas, it's like no.
If I may venture a guess here, it will not be attempted. So I don't think that
I
even
agree.
a soldier will
Yeah,
set
yeah.
foot in Iran. It
It'll
will
be
be this
air,
brewing conflict. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
air campaign at the max. I think air campaign by
Yes.
America. That's it. It's not going to
Haiti
be higher
has
than that.
10,714 square miles.
Okay.
Iran has 636,400 square miles. So yeah, we're talking 60 times the fighting area. 60
um,
more about yeah, close 60 times the fighting area.
that's hilarious. Oh man.
And 17th largest country in the world. It's
Yeah.
like yeah, this is like I mean just Israel should have known. You people are smart. You should have known, like, you don't poke the bear. You can't win this fight. Let's just do a quick one here. Size of Israel. 8,000. Israel's smaller than Haiti. They have a bigger air force, true. roughly the same population. I mean,
Oh man,
this is basically like Gilbert Gottfried picking a fight with Mike Tyson.
that's basically what it is. Oh man,
Yeah.
oh man.
Oh, we're gonna make it look like Gaza. Gaza is 17.37 square miles.
Basically, it's like 25 miles long and about 5 miles wide, but it's not a perfect rectangle. That's how you remember it, basically.
Yeah, it's like 17 square miles. It's more like about like 5 miles long and about a little over 3 miles wide. This is no
Yeah, I think you're looking at Gaza City. I'm talking about the Gaza Strip, all of Gaza, basically. Yeah,
size
because they're
of
not the same thing. Yeah. So,
Gaza Strip. Let's check here. 140 square miles.
there we go. There we
Okay,
go.
yeah,
See.
140, like, basically 50, you're talking something that's like just 500 times the size of Gaza. 400 times the size of Gaza. I'm sorry, I exaggerated.
No worries, no
And
worries,
let's
no
just
worries.
also point out you haven't pacified Gaza yet.
Yes, after what, almost 2 years?
But hey, we're gonna sock it right to those Iranians.
Okay, I have to read this. I passed it around on Telegram as well. Exclusive. Israel has reached out to Iran through the United Arab Emirates, urging Iran to return to direct negotiations with the United States and accept a nuclear deal which involves zero enrichment of uranium on Iranian soil. Iran has informed the regional nation, very likely the UAE, that it will not exchange messages with Israel at this stage, neither directly nor indirectly, and that Israel should not have started a war if they were not prepared to continue it. Exclusive sources. So Kenaz, do we have a soundtrack for that? Because I think Iran just told Israel to fuck off. So
It was
we
at
might
this
need a
moment
soundtrack
that
for
he
this.
knew he fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, you
Uh,
have like that takes some sheer chutzpah. Yeah, well, maybe we should negotiate. Yeah, well, maybe you shouldn't have bombed us in an targeted assassinations, asshole. I mean, what were you like? They have they have no reason to come to the table. They can basically bomb you for another week, maybe, and then say, well, we'll be talking about coming to the table. And oh, yeah, coming to the table, our first demand is a two-state solution.
mhm, 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 mhm. Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah, our second demand is you shut down your nuclear program.
Mhm, mhm,
Don't like it? Well,
Mm.
we got more missiles coming.
mhm, mhm. Oh
And
yeah,
they don't
oh yeah.
don't have to be, nuclear. They can be just simple regular missiles. They
Yeah,
can cause enough
conventional
trouble.
missiles.
Yeah.
Yeah, conventional missiles. Downtown Tel Aviv, right? Downtown Tel Aviv. And so you can just like type it in, downtown Tel Aviv population. Because like now that civilian infrastructure is being attacked, like 1 or 2 hours ago, like the Iranian oil refinery was hit. Desalination plants, power plants, all of that is like fair game. Downtown Tel Aviv, population of Tel Aviv total, 4.5 million.
Yeah, Tel
Downtown Tel
Aviv
Aviv,
Yaffo area
1.3 million. 1.3
1.3.
million. Population density of 7,200. If you fire a missile at population density of 7,200 per square kilometer, people are gonna die. That's just like mathematics, basically. Of like, So I mean the Israelis wanna like Sir Kenaz, you love to use that example. You should probably like reiterate it for the audience, but it's like that example you used of like the zealots at the Temple Mount. They're doing the same shit again, basically.
Yeah, the Messiah is going to come and save us, or in this case, the Orange Messiah is going to come and save us. It's like we're going to engage in this desperate all-out struggle that we have absolutely no chance of winning because we're expecting like a catastrophe. We're expecting something good's going to come out of this. It's like, well, how'd that work in 80, 70, guys? I seem to recall something
Oh.
about a temple being leveled. Does that ring any bells?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. One of the reasons I don't believe in this IQ stuff is that whenever people tell me Israelis have the highest IQ and white people have the highest IQ, I just like, okay, look around you. Do you see any of that high IQ?
No, actually,
I
what I see
yeah.
is echo chambers, and they are making themselves believe that the other side is so stupid and so shaky that they will just crumble after the first strike, and then when reality is not that easy, then they are
Oh
just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I just wrote a Substack about this on guys, notes from the end of time. Look it up and read it. It's called
Nice.
Smart Person Syndrome. And
Hmm.
yeah, one of the problems the Israelis have, smart people have it in general, is smart people can do really idiotic things so long as they look plausibly logical.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
It's like, okay, well, we've got like, our Air Force is much stronger than like Iran's Air Force. We've never lost a war here in the Middle East. All we got to do is like basically bomb, like, bomb the bejesus out of them. And then after that's done, you know, we'll like, take whatever land we want, we'll negotiate for that because they'll be so like battered down, they'll be wary for peace. Well, maybe in a little country like Lebanon or Syria, and you didn't even have real good luck with those. Not in Iran.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Mhm.
No way.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
Iran has like more like there's a martyrdom tradition in Iran that like, people in living memory can think of. They're basically people walking out on the streets in their shrouds knowing they were going to get shot by Savak, but protesting anyway. They've had things like that. You saw it in Bangladesh, people who don't fear death are real tough to intimidate.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So, like Sir Kenaz put a plug for his excellent piece. Check it out, dear listeners and readers. I'll put on mine as well, I guess. So on the fall of the West, I wrote a really, really long thing. Uh, it's not a poem, it's like a quasi poem. I didn't want it to be a poem, but like it ended up sounding that way. But basically, the great replacement is inevitable. That's the title. And then the subtitle is Faustian Man's Demise is the End Game of Cultural Materialism, and it's basically like 26,000 words or something. I used 6 months to write it. I know, I know. I'm not supposed to make like giant Substack articles, but I did. And one of the segments I think is ethnosolipsism, right? Inclusion becomes erasure. The West only sees itself. Liberalism flattens all differences into frameworks it can manage, right? And like in that part, what I basically do is, and maybe I'll even quote myself. That'll be fun, quoting yourself. But like one of the things I do is I basically say that yeah, ethnosolipsism is not supremacy, it is not conquest, it is not hatred, it is hallucination. It is the inability to see the other except as a version of the self, not in their terms, but in yours, not as they are, but as they might be, if only they were liberated. It is the metaphysical core of liberal universalism, the assumption that all people, given enough freedom, education, and market access, will converge on the same ideals, the same values, the same dreams. It is not pluralism, it is the managerial erasure of difference, not by suppression, but by standardization, not by violence, but by interface. Ethnosolipsism does not colonize, it consults, it develops, it benchmarks, it quantifies cultures into KPIs, it absorbs alterity into deliverables. Exactly, right. So, like, it's not just the liberals who do this, the populists do this as well. Like, the West is basically in a self referential loop right now, Sir Sorcerer. And you were also mentioning it a few moments ago of like, yeah, they're so stupid and they're so retarded because they are the other, right? And again, if we just decapitate them or whatever, it's the same shit basically. It's the same shit, different story, right? Like uh, if we just do all this stuff, the war is gonna end, and the West, per usual, because we never lose, we're gonna triumph again. That's basically what's going on here.
Until they don't,
Until they
and
don't. There
that's
we go.
until they don't, and then that's over. So again, tying back to the beginning of this discussion, this is the denial, which is uh, through and through the system. So until the very last moment, until when things really fall apart, these regime change operations will be tried, and then back at home. In the meantime, civil war will break out. All things will break loose. All hell will break loose. The White House will be burning, and then they will stop regime change operations. But until then, I don't think so.
Yeah. 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 So Sir Kenaz, get ready to fight for Actually, no. Like I think actually no. Like Ukraine has drafted men in their 70s. So yeah, no, Sir Kenaz, you will be sent to Iran. Oh.
I will, yeah, I will be a great asset to any military that hands me a rifle. I sure will. No, I mean, I think at this point it's become clear that, you know, we don't have the manpower. We can't, we don't have the manpower. Recruitment is up, but we're not in a place where we can win. Like, we cannot win a war with Russia. I mean, that just like ultimately escalates into a nobody wins situation. We can't win a war with China. If we go to war with China, we're like basically Japan picking a fight with the United States in 1941. And I don't think we could take Iran, but there are people in the Trump State Department that are saying we have to be ready to fight a three-front war.
Okay.
Oh man.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
man.
like you cannot, like, I mean, World War II was a two-front war, and that stretched us to our maximum in our capacity, to really provide the men and material. China, like, okay, Russia's not real populated. They've got, like, I want to say about 170 million people. Iran's got 90 million people. Then there's China.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you basically can kill, like, you kill 300 million people, you've wiped out the United States. You kill 300 million Chinese, you've wiped out about, like, 25% of the population.
And you've really pissed them off, and they will chase you till the ends of the earth until 1,000 years from now there are no white people left on the planet. Full stop. That's basically what you've done. Like people don't understand this stuff. Like when you explain this stuff to them nicely and slowly, like, okay, what you're pursuing gets you to this end outcome. They're just like they're in ethno-solipsism land. They don't listen to you. They're just like, oh well, West is the best. We always win, so we'll win again. And that's what they're in. And I just view this as normal now. Like if you go to Mongolia, and Mongolia is a beautiful place, but there are some Mongolians who are just like, any day now Genghis Khan's gonna rise from the ashes and we'll just run over everyone like we used to, and the Great Khan will like take us to glory. It's the same shit. Like you got people who are like romanticizing and fantasizing about Rhodesia, the British Empire, that sort of shit. It's childish. It's childish. It's pathetic. It's like, petulant children probably are better than these guys, these man children, but that's what it is, and I don't expect it to change. I think like 500 years from now, these people will still exist. Like they'll be like, yeah, we live in a slum. There's no running water. There's no electricity. There's nothing. We're using like basic hand tools, and we somehow manage to like scavenge for a living. But any day now, Elonius Muscus V will ride the Iron Chariot into Mars and take our people to the promised land, Mars and the moon, basically. There's gonna be people like that 500 years from now. You just gotta get used to it, bro. Like that's just how it is. So,
I mean, those people, anytime I see stuff like that, it's just like, as I'm fond of saying, I want a serious discussion. That is not serious. Deport them all is not serious. Well, if only we can put bases on Mars is not serious. We're going to, like, anytime your solution is like patently ridiculous on the source, it's just like, why engage with these people? I mean, if I see a
yeah.
dog turd in my yard, I don't have to pick it up to realize it ain't a candy bar.
Exactly. I've also come to the same conclusion as well. I think like Sirkin is much wiser and sage than myself. He figured it out ages ago, but I've come to the conclusion that if a guy is talking to you about warfare and military affairs by way of like vibes and humiliation and vibes and why didn't they do it? Why didn't this guy punch the other guy 5 minutes? Like, bro, you had 5 years, like you had 3 years at the minimum from like the Russo-Ukrainian war till the present moment to learn about how warfare actually works. Structural factors, topography, drones, like you've had that time. If you can't learn it by then, I'm sorry, man, but there's no point in engaging. And as Sir Kenaz was saying, it's not going to be an intelligent discussion.
I mean, I could see the Russo-Ukrainian wars actually a model for, an Iran-Israel war, except it won't take them quite so long. I mean, it's basically, if this turns into a war of attrition, it will become a proxy war with America, feeding Israel money and weapons, and China and Russia feeding Iran money and weapons. But in this case, Iran, like, Ukraine never stood a chance against Russia simply because, after 3 years, like, basically Ukraine's population is decimated, not even decimated, 3 decimations. It's like, whereas Russia is just as strong as they were when they came in, you can't fight somebody who has superior resources, superior manpower. What you try to do is negotiate with these people and avoid conflict.
That's what wise men do, but
Yeah,
not the
I mean, it
Europeans,
was like,
unfortunately.
the Europeans. I've always like, when Latvia insists we should go to war with Russia. It's like, you're 1.4 million people. Luxembourg was going to send, Luxembourg was going to send in, like, its army, all 950 of them.
Oh my gosh, Sir Kenaz. There's like Luxembourgians. You can't stop them.
Yeah, I mean, that's like, this is not, I mean, this, we should have never let the Baltic states in NATO. Ever since we did, they got a complex and they were like, we're going to provoke Russia because now we're part of NATO. Well, meanwhile, NATO should have been saying, sit down, shut the fuck up. We're here to protect you in case of a war. That doesn't mean we want you provoking one.
Yeah.
Unless you came to the conclusion that NATO is not a protective alliance, but rather a provocative alliance.
Yeah, well, they did. I mean, it was very clear, you making noises about bringing Ukraine into NATO. I can guarantee you right now, if the Chinese started building military bases and, bringing in troops into Mexico, we'd have something to say about that.
Yeah, just think about the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we already, that's the classic one. We already made it clear that, like, moving nuclear missiles to within 75 miles of your, like, a country with whom you have a tense relationship is a good way to start a war.
Oh, yeah.
So we deliberately did that. We provoked that in the hopes that we were going to fight to the last Ukrainian, and because we would grind them down until there was regime change in Russia and we could put, like, a globalist puppet in charge. And Israel right now, at least its stated goal is, we're just fighting for regime change. Yeah, we tried that in Ukraine. How did that work out?
America tried that for the last 30 years. Decapitation and regime change. It doesn't fucking work.
Nevertheless, it will be tried in Taiwan as well. They will accept Taiwan's independence.
I mean, like,
and then
the way you know that a civilization is dead, and the way you know that it's moribund and it's dead, is that it repeats the same failed forms from decades and centuries prior, hoping for a different result. Einstein called it insanity. That's basically what you're seeing right now. You're seeing the insanity of, like, the Faustian man, Western civilization, whatever you want to talk about, right? And it's going to keep happening until more and more, like, destruction. And eventually you're going to have, like, 500 years from now, 1,000 years from now, you're going to have a place like Mongolia, like a few scattered remnants of people, and they still talk like this, basically. Like, that's the future, bros.
Yeah, civilizations are problem-solving devices. But
that's what they are, correct.
Yeah, but after they solve a few problems, they become the source of the problems themselves, and then they can stop, making the same mistakes.
Have you read Joseph Tainter's book, The Collapse of Complex Societies?
Not in full detail. So I've read many chapters of it.
That's exactly the point he makes, which is that civilizations are problem-solving devices, And the way they solve problems over the last 6,000 years, because civilization has only really been around since about 4,000 BC, right? Maybe a bit longer if you extend it to Göbekli Tepe, but we don't know about that enough. But anyhow, but like the point he made in the book is that, yeah, they're problem-solving devices, but the way they do so is in a very, very similar pattern, which is they add on more complexity to the problem, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
And I'm very familiar
exactly.
with the idea, and I build a lot
Yeah.
of my thesis on that idea.
Nice.
And it makes tremendous sense, because this is exactly what is playing out in front of our eyes. And what the other really good social scientist, Peter Turchin, found out that civilizations go through the same cycles, not by building complexity, not only by building complexity, but by overproducing elites at the top. And this is what we are exactly, witnessing, especially in Europe and North America. We see a lot of elites produced, and they are vying for power all the time, fighting between each other. And this is what I refer to in America as well. You have a lot of, billionaires who are the top elites, and they are just actually making a civil war inside their circles. And this is what we have seen with the assassination attempts in the election season and all the rest. It was really, sponsored by those elites. But at least this is how I see it.
Yeah. No, Professor Peter Turchin eventually will. I think he's on Substack as well. Eventually, we want him on the show as well. But no, like cryodynamics, the study of history and historical patterns. I think like the number he came to was like he studied over 200 different societies, and in all of them, whenever they enter like a dark age period, it's always like some form of oligarchy. So like the conclusion the study group came to was like oligarchy is the default human behavior for like government. And so like the tendency for democracy is to devolve into oligarchy, and the tendency for autocracy and empire and monarchy is also to devolve towards oligarchy. That seems to be the most stable configuration, right? And like that's kind of like his iron law of oligarchy, which is that all human governments, like entropically, they tend towards oligarchy, and institutions and these other things and elites and these guys, they basically try to steer it away from oligarchy as much as possible, but they basically fail in the end.
Yeah, basically, oligarchy is a strange attractor in terms of complexity science, but it's not a stable endpoint, because it's by definition unstable, because one oligarch will try to reign
kill the other oligarch
all over. Yeah. Kill everyone, and then they will actually devolve into dictatorship. But then the rest of the oligarchs will stage a coup against that dictator, and then they will go back to oligarchy again until the state dissolves, because it stops functioning at all. And this is what Aristotle also discovered way back in time. 400 BC, I believe. He wrote a really good thesis on this one, why oligarchy is actually the endpoint, and also the final destination before the state collapses.
Yeah. And so like he coined the term aristocracy, which is like an enlightened oligarchy, right? But like his basic concept was that yes, there is no avoiding oligarchy, right? There is no avoiding it. You can kind of delay it. You can kind of like, okay, well, do XYZ, but no, oligarchy is gonna be the endpoint for like government in general. And so like Aristotle was the last guy in the Western world who was like, I wrote a book for every subject in existence. So he was that type of person, right? So it's like, but nowadays you don't see that type of person. But no, he figured that out, and a lot of people are beginning to rediscover a lot of his wisdoms. Absolutely, yeah. So like I just got a breaking news. A British destroyer was stopped by Iran. The Iranian Navy says a British destroyer that entered the northern Indian Ocean last night to help Israeli missiles into Iranian territory was detected by monitoring by the Naval Intelligence System, and the Navy's combat drones issued a warning and prevented the destroyer from continuing its movement into the Persian Gulf. The destroyer complied and then changed course. So like, all these people who are talking about reviving the British Empire, there's your British Empire right there, folks. There it is, right there, right in front of your face, right? So, a lot of arrogance, a lot of like, man children speaking, but this is the reality that they're in, right? They gotta get used to it. Defeat, the taste of defeat. They gotta get used to it more and more, right? So, all right, what else do we have down here? Bunch of other news. Israel prepares for a potentially catastrophic and dramatic event tonight without disclosing further information. Well, yeah, obviously, because you guys are going to get hit by missiles again, right? But no, like, Sir Sorcerer, I think we're going to see more and more chaos and anarchy and whatever, and hopefully everyone stays safe. But yeah, like, whether it be interethnic conflict in Europe, whether it be like, Middle East war, like Third Gulf War, all these other shenanigans, whether it be like civil war in America, we are now living in interesting times. We are officially in interesting times.
Yes, especially, yeah. It's going to be crazy. Actually, Europe's default state, if the state's default state is oligarchy, but then Europe's default state is war, interwar, inside Europe. So the trouble is already brewing in the Balkans again, as I hear. So there are different alliances forming within NATO and outside of NATO. So these are really, how to say, disturbing tendencies which are going down there, and also in many other parts of the continent, especially between Poland and Germany, there can be another fight. So as soon as this madness in Eastern Europe is over, I suspect that NATO will dissolve, and then Europe will return to its basic modus operandi: war between each other.
France versus Germany. Yeah, France
Poland
versus
Germany,
all that other stuff.
or Poland versus Germany, and Balkan states against each other, all against all. usual stuff. But it's really not good to be here in this time of history. But also again in North America, where you will have civil war. That's also again not a nice place to be. So we will have to find a more peaceful place to settle, I believe.
With that being said, and with that very, very optimistic note that Sir Sorcerer has noted for us, we have been going on for like over 1 hour and 40 minutes. Do we continue, gentlemen, or like would you like to cap it off over there?
Actually, I have to go. So it was really nice talking to you, and I hope we can talk again.
Our pleasure. Absolutely.
No, it was our
we will
pleasure.
have you on as a
Excellent.
repeat guest. We will have you on as a repeat guest. Yeah. And when this comes out, Sir Kenaz, I think it can have it out in a few hours. Make sure, good Sir Sorcerer, to restack, cross-post, whatever you want to do with it, share far and wide. Because we were honored and privileged to have you on. And yeah, like maybe a few months' time, we'll have you on again.
Thank you very much.
Sounds good. And with that, hold on 1 second. I am just looking for my soundboard. It ain't there. Okay, then is it? There we go. All right, people. As we always end this with, to all of you techno optimists, to all of you people who believe nothing ever happens, well,
Your soul is mine. Fate